really good to have you all here, because from my perspective, in such disruptive times, it's good to have an international stage and to discuss things without borders, and also without borders in our heads, to discuss together how we can make the market, or how we can predict changes and how we can really shape the future of tomorrow, not only in Germany, also across Europe, because where we are talking today about, it's more about a European thing than only a German thing. Therefore, happy to be here and happy to have you all here. As you all know, we are living in quite disruptive times, and I was putting this presentation together prior last week, so we are in more dynamic times this week than 3 weeks ago. So, but we are really seeing is that our industry is in the biggest transformation. And I would say the German automotive industry is the biggest restructuring case in Europe. The restructuring means every time you have a chance for a turnaround, but you need to act really quickly and also really precise that we can do this turnaround. And each and every person who's in the room today has one specific role in this ecosystem and has also the ability to drive this change together. So what is this change really driving? And the main driver in this industry is the customer. And the customer preferences and average is changing. And this is nothing new. But the biggest problem we have is that we need to keep this in mind when we are talking about the future. So in general, the future will lie in usage-based products. This is mainly driven by the EV transformation and mainly driven by the customer. So what the prediction is, 2035, 69% of all new car registrations, will be in a usage-based product. But this means also, when we are talking about this fact of usage-based products, that you have to keep in mind that you need this product, the structures, the capabilities, etc. pp. So this is how the products will change from the customer perspective. But there are also like major trends which we are seeing there in the industry, which you can take photos, but I can send it around afterwards, no worries, which will determine the whole industry, the whole automotive financial services and mobility industry. And these are 11 major ones. I will not deep dive in each and every trend, but this is really keen to keep in mind when we are talking about the topics which we have on our agenda today with cross-border sales and also with the dealer consolidation we are seeing in Europe. First 3 trends, I think everybody knows it, ESG trends. But this is a regulatory frame which we are putting, or which is the European Union and the different governments are putting around our industry. And these frames are really tight, and these frames will change everything 2027 onwards. I will come to it later. The third row is about how the ecosystem will change, how customer preferences will change. Nothing really new, so we will have a shift from like B2C to B2B, bigger fleets. And the last row is more about how the different players can make money out of it, do more asset management, monetize the car over life cycles. And I think autonomous vehicles in digital era, autonomous will come, but first in the heavy-duty vehicle industry and then in the car industry and digital era. I think it's a thing we all know. And then there's this small bucket on the left, and it's called new market entrants. It do not have the number. But this will also be something in our new normal, which will affect us all in Europe. And I know I had a few discussions in Germany where they said, yeah, the Chinese, they are there, but they will not come. Be sure, they will come. And what we are seeing today also in the volume segment is nobody's loyal to a brand anymore. Nobody cares. They want mobility. They want to come from A to B. And they are really price sensitive. And this is the main thing when we're talking about price sensitivity, and the traditional manufacturers are not price sensitive because they have a brand and they say, yeah, everybody will pay for this brand. No, the customer will not. And I will talk to it later in another panel for Germany. The customer loyalty is decreasing massively in the next years. So when we are looking at these trends, there are 2 major things we would like to discuss today. One thing is cross-border trades. Cross-border trades will be in the next years one profit pool you can play. And the second one is a little bit more what the dealer consolidation, and there was a study published, I think, 2 days ago, where it said, yeah, it's the biggest dealer consolidation since the last 20 years. So we will also talk a little bit about this topic. It's given. cross-border trades will gain importance. They are already important, but they will be more important in the next years. And then I'm jumping into a topic, and this is one topic why they're gaining importance. So when we are looking at in the numbers and in the different predictions, and you can say, yeah, maybe it's more or less BEVs in the market, but the future will be electric, full stop in Europe. There are massive investments from the OEMs, billions, they will not turn it around. And also when we're talking about if there will be a registration stop of combustion engine in 2035 or 2040, 2045, it will change nothing because the investments are made, future will be electric. The question is not if, the question is when. So this will affect directly the cross-border sales. So we have to think about how we will deal with the different with the different engine types and where we can make the most money out of it. And when we're looking a little bit to Europe, what's really interesting there is the different arrows are showing the most exporting and importing routes of like used cars across Europe. So really interesting is that there are some, and this is a major one. So you can say, okay, Portugal, well, it's great, but these are the major ones where we are seeing really that that the routes are that the people are making money there. So they're exporting, importing things, but what you can definitely see also when we're talking about EVs and cross-border, that they are exporting more in countries or doing more cross-border sales in countries where the customer is really convinced where you have the infrastructure and so on and so on. So this is really triggering cross-border sales, and we have different types of majority also across countries. Therefore, it's good to be really international. So we are exporting, Germans are exporting a lot of things, other countries are importing a lot of things, but in general, also with the engine type, it varies. But the main thing is, can you make money out of it? And the answer to this question is yes. When we were calculating, and we did it for a lot of OEMs, for a lot of dealers, an average 2,500 euro profit when you're doing cross-border sale. And I think 2,500 euro, it's quite a big number for used car, especially. And then what's adding to this is like also you can talk about after sales. You can like also diversify your portfolio, that you have used car portfolio, and this is coming on top of it. So in general, you can make money out of it. And then question is when we are talking about new normal. 2027 onwards, cross-border sale is gone. So the classical sale is gone, full stop. Why? I talked about the regulation and the frame which is putting around of it. And we have a nice regulation from the European Union, which is made by politicians who are not really aware what this means for the industry. It's the EU Battery Act and the End of Life Directive. From the 1st January 2027 onwards, the manufacturer who brings a battery to the market is obliged to recycle it by the end of its life, 80% recycle quota. This means you can't sell an EV anymore. So you have to think about how you really will deal with it. So for me, it's a huge chance to say, okay, we are doing as lifecycle management, we're talking about leasing, subscription, whatever. But in general, for the manufacturers, but also for platforms, it's completely a new way of thinking because the used car market, also the cross-border market, will completely disrupt. And nobody is prepared yet because 2027 is, okay, 2 years, it's tomorrow from my perspective, but today when you're looking in the industry, there are bigger problems, they are really struggling with profitability and so on, that they're not looking at it, but this will be a major topic which will really change everything. So, 2 sentences, dealer consolidation, and this is also not a new topic, but when we are looking at it, what we see, we see a consolidation. So, and we see this consolidation that each and every dealer, so the bigger dealer buying the smaller ones, you have really brought a new normal that 3 years ago or 4 years ago, when you've asked me what's the role of the dealer, I would have to answer to you in the industry at Volkswagen Financial Services, I would say, the dealer role will decrease. And to be honest, and I think this is naturally, and you have to say it, I was wrong. The dealer role is increasing in the future. And this is not partially in Germany the point, it's also across Europe. So therefore, we have this trend, we have this consolidation trend, but in general the importance is growing also to serve the customer with the right product. Because the biggest mistake we made when we were talking about the BEV transformation is that we haven't put the customer in the center. We put a technology to the market and say, use it. And this is the thing we should never repeat it. We should, every time when we're thinking about new products and all the discussions we're doing here, put the customer in the center and ask a question, how the customer really is eager to use products, is eager to use assets, whatever, but the customer is the one who's driving the change in the whole automotive industry. When we're not putting the customer in the center, we will lose this battle. And with this, I'm more than happy to introduce Florian, who will moderate the panel to the stage. Thanks very much, and looking forward to the discussion now.
So, who do we have sitting here with me? First of all, we have Rolf, who's the founder and CEO, I would say, of EuroStocks, right? Is CEO the right job title? Yeah, okay. Then Benedikt, you already heard a minute ago. Then we have Frank Moormann, super interesting. He's the managing director of I really have the phonetic way to pronounce your company name, Nieuwenhuijse.
Nieuwenhuijse, yeah.
Group. And then last but not least, we have Joao, who's the CEO of coches.net and motors.net. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's basically the mobility of Spain. And we've been working together for a long time, but we have rarely ever talked about the two topics of today, so that will be super interesting for me also to learn your perspective on these topics. So maybe we start with you, Joao, right away. And we heard a lot from Benedikt already, but what changes do you see, or how do you see the importance of cross-border trade in the future for the market of Spain?
So I think Spain is lagging a bit the evolution that we see on EV penetration and the leasing perspective and the usage of cars. It's more of an old country, an old perspective country where you see more, I like to own the car, and it's more petrol heads than EVs, and we can talk about why that is. But I think cross-border trade is still important for Spain. We're more important importers than exporters. I think currently it's roughly 5% of used car sales actually importing, and we import from Germany and France mostly German cars. I see that importance growing in the future, and we need to tailor for that as well. And just for perspective, we export, but we export more to Portugal, that was in grey, and North Africa. Older cars, and we do also, out of curiosity, we import cars that are older than 6 years, and very high-end cars from Germany. Why? Because, as Benedikt mentioned, price-wise, customers are very price-sensitive, and they get very good deals in Germany that they could not get in Spain, given the price differences of new versus used car. And that imbalance creates the opportunity that then drives that profit that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. So important, yes, in the future. Currently, not the majority of the market as we stand.
Mm-hmm. So maybe let's get the perspective of the managing director of a dealer group. Frank, what is the importance of cross-border trade to your business today, and how do you see that evolving over the next 5 years?
Yeah, we already saw it evolving last year's heavily, and I think we're heavily dependent also on other markets to either get the cars to the Netherlands to resell to other customers and end users. But also in the future, if I see those borders evade to not a barrier anymore. I think that's a real trend, that we can easily access all Eastern European countries in terms of export, that we can much easily access Germany to buy cars and everything like that. So it's easier to step over the border. And also, if you look at the scale of the Netherlands itself and the car market, then it's not that big. I talked to someone from the UK just recently, and the market there is like 5 times bigger even than in the Netherlands. And that's the thing you need to take into account if you're a Dutch dealer. It's just a small country, and we tend to think big always. So we need to do that cross-border trading.
Yeah, that's great, and it's great to have experts supporting you on that. So, Rolf, cross-border trade is your thing, right? So what's your perspective on the future development? Are you in the right spot with your business, and what does the future look like for you?
Yeah, thanks. I think we help, as EuroStocks, international non-German dealers to be successful on mobility, selling cars and trucks. There's also truck dealers here, or vans, commercial cars. And there are a couple of reasons that I foresee that the cross-border trade in the next 15 years will grow, and then we can talk later maybe at the Battery Act. But for the next 15 years, and it's first of all, there are 250 million cars driving around in Europe, right? So that's a big number, and they need to go somewhere. They go to Africa, Eastern Europe, from west, from the north, Scandinavian countries to the south, to Spain. Second of all, we have EV transitions going on, right? And in Holland, Norway, I think we are ahead of it, right? So 5% of our car park is already BEV. So, but for example, in 2019, because of the government, we sold in Holland, the number one model was the Tesla Model 3. 30,000. For us, that's a really big number. The Golf, the Volkswagen was 10,000, to give a perspective, right? That was the number one for ages. After the 5 years lease period, it's coming back right now, 30,000. And as a small market, we cannot absorb it. So we need cross-border trade to have not a price drop till 10, but till 20, luckily. Some in the room are getting lots of Model D specs. And the sourcing, but that's what Frank told, as a showroom in Holland, but I think it's also in Germany and other countries, you need to source your cars for the local market, because you are a dealer connected to your clients. Some need older cars, young cars, exclusive cars. And the trade-ins are not the cars for the local market, so you need to find other markets to sell it. So that's why I foresee.
So, Benedikt, of course, we heard a lot from you already, but what are some of the recommendations you have for the people in the room to better prepare for that increasing importance of cross-border trade?
I think first, and it's a relevant point, and somebody of you would smile because you're already doing it, do not think in countries, think in a European Union. So more than what Frank said, without borders, like think it as a market. And then think about really where you can make money with your cars you have, or where you can maybe also you have in demand in Germany, which you can fulfill with a car out of Spain. To really think about like profit pools and see Europe as a profit pool. Maybe you're located in the Netherlands, Germany, wherever, but think as a profit pool. And then also, I talked about the trends, and I know these are like predictions, but we really can see that customer preference, and maybe you see it also on your end, the customer preference is changing. So the thing is, think about like the solution for the customer in the center to say, okay, maybe when I can offer leasing by my own, maybe a partner. And partnerships, also in the cross-border thing, are one crucial point. Do not do it on your own. Partner. Because you can make the cake bigger, because somebody has maybe capabilities you do not have, and also the way around. Therefore, think in partnerships. And the other different importance is, we know engine types will change. So you can squeeze a lemon now with combustion engines. That's fair. I would do it also. So I'm out of the industry, so completely agree. But don't close your eyes in front of this transformation, which is like quite happening. So be open and say, okay, that will happen. What does it mean for me? Which partnerships I need? Whatever, which products I need? What the customer really wants? Because I want to make profit in the end. These are maybe.
Yeah.
If I let me add. The user view that I can bring as a marketplace to this EV situation. And I think there are three main barriers to EV transition right now. First one is the price, and we talked about it. It's still more expensive than the combustion engine. So there are different subsidies in different countries that may make the EVs more attractive to users. We need to see that pricing drop, or at least the relative price getting to parity, so that we see the EV penetration increase. Yep. Second one, what is the value after my usage? I buy a car now. It might be a new car or a 2-year, 3-year-old car. What happens in 5 years or 3 years? At 6 years, after 3 years of usage, how much is worth that car? And we are going, I think, through the first cycle of transition, maybe the second one, so there's not a lot of data in the market to know what is the value of the car after that. And that puts users with a step back as well. The third one is infrastructure. It's not the same thing as me just going to a petrol station. I know that if I have a queue, I'll wait 5 minutes, and then there's 2 minutes to put my petrol in, and off I am. Than to have a queue. If I have 2 cars, it's probably 1 hour delay. And then I have to wait another 30 minutes for my car to get charged. Yeah, then there's supercharged, so on and so forth, yes, but still, people do not realize or do not trust the infrastructure that we have. And these 3 points that we need to, like from a user perspective, are putting a barrier. So
maybe to add to the second point, because this is the most relevant point. Yeah. Because, to be honest, I do not want to buy an electric car because the residual value risk in my personal books are way too high. Yeah. So this is, I think, therefore it lays in user-based product, but then the residual value is with somebody else, so like the financial service provider or the manufacturer. But from my perspective, the residual value is not, it's an outdated number, because when we are talking about closed loops in the future, when we're talking about electric vehicles, the new number should be the recycling value. So in the end, and you can predict it because you know what resources are in the car, and then you can say, okay, this is the recycling value. I know I had a lot of discussions with our accountants that you need a residual value, blah, blah, blah. But in general, we need to also there to think a different way. So from a different perspective to say, okay, what's the new measurement when we're talking about like
that's only at the very, very end.
Yeah.
You know, when you bring it to the scrape.
Yes. Yeah.
So what do you do?
I want to add the fourth reason. Yeah. I think dealers and car traders are advertising EVs as if it's a diesel or a benzene. Yeah. So it's at a pano or it's head up. People don't care. They want to know what the worth is in 4 years. People want to know how quick you can charge it in 20 minutes. People want to know how it about in the jobs or at home. I live in Amsterdam, 3 high. I don't have solar panels on my roof, right? Mm-hmm. So I have different questions if I look at an advertisement. And please take a look at all the platforms. You see an EV advertised as a fuel or a benzene with kW's, kilometer, year, you know, all the but people want to know different things. So maybe Mini, for example, take a look at those corporate websites. They are in Holland trying to get into the eyes of the EV doubters. What questions do they ask? And that's not on the advertiser, so please add that, because that will help the transition.
A lot of future for leasing and subscription in terms of EV.
So what I'm hearing from a lot of dealers here in Germany is that basically young used EVs are not selling B2C at all at the moment. So basically demand is zero, and it's certainly not a demand issue that we see. It's more a pricing issue. And then when it comes to pricing, there are these opportunities in other markets where you still have government subsidies for used EVs. So for example, we see a lot of B2B sales to the Netherlands, from Germany to Netherlands, to Portugal, to, of course, the Nordics. So Frank, as a dealer, do you see an increasing trend or an accelerated trend for cross-border trade driven by EVs? And if yes, what is the main source for electric vehicles in terms of origin for you at the moment?
Well, that race depends on which way you're looking at it, which way it goes. Goes it into the Netherlands or outside? Because we are importing a lot of EVs as well to supply to that small demand of second-hand EV cars in the Netherlands. But what we see now is that we also export a lot of cars to, for instance, Denmark, because there's the subsidy at the moment. And that's some temporary trend we're facing right now in these years, up until 2027 maybe, that we need to get rid of to get the pressure of these residual values, especially in the EV market. And the main source for us is still the Netherlands, of course, because in terms of new cars, there's a lot of subsidy on new cars for EV, so that market is big. What Rolf was mentioning as well with the Teslas. But then after 4 or 5 years, there's no demand anymore for second-hand cars. So if you, for instance, take a taxi in Budapest, in Hungary, you're much likely to sit in a Dutch car originally from the Netherlands, and then we exported it to the Eastern European countries.
Yeah, so Rolf, when this EU Battery Act will come into play, what tools or what help do we need as providers along the value chain for cross-border trade to still be possible? Do you have any ideas in terms of your business?
That should be a question more for Benedikt, but it's there are so much transitions going on right now with the combined cars and with the EVs, and as a dealer, you need to source the right cars. And after COVID, we thought that an electric car of 100 was 70,000 euro worth after 3 years, right? So we have a new reality. There's an overproduction with the OEMs coming up, so new cars will be bought by 30% discount, hopefully for you. And then, but it will be impacting also the used car market, so that will impact that the normal consumers can also buy an EV for 10, 20,000, and that's a new reality. So we don't need to think that the Tesla, which was 70,000, is worth 35. That's not a reality anymore, and it will change. Also.
What we face is that the ownership of an EV as a second-hand car, that will change in the future. It's just the usage of it. And then there will be leasing companies or subscription models or anything in place.
But those are the ones taking the risk, right? You shift the risk from the user to this big financial corporation.
But the risk is, you can calculate it in the end, especially if you have that scrapyard value in the end, or the recycling value.
So I think in general, one word is partnerships also here. So we need to think about how we can really deal with it, because as I said, I'm not a fan of this regulation. So to make this clear here, but the regulation is coming anyway. So we need to deal with it. So the question is how we can do it, and we can only do it together, because when we're talking about like closed loops, everybody in this value chain we have here, dealers, after sales, the manufacturers, the financial services, we need to work together to like fulfill it. And from my perspective, we can make more money out of it. So in each and everything in the value chain, you can make money, but we need to talk to each other and need to be more open, because in the future, we have to be really honest to ourselves. We made tons of money out of this industry. It was great. So, and everybody was like a little bit close and was saying, I'm saying with me because I can make money. Tomorrow we need, or today already, we need to be really open and say, okay, how we can really collaborate together. And it doesn't matter who you are and which company you are, how big you are, because the biggest ones are struggling actually the most in the market today.
Maybe a question to you, Joao, because we rarely had the time to talk about cross-border trade in our day-to-day corporate jobs. But I remember when this whole Adevinta thing started, we said, okay, we have all these marketplaces around Europe. Cross-border trade is a thing we believe in, so let's do something together to facilitate this. And 3 years later, nothing has really happened. Why do you think that is, and what do you think the role of marketplaces in this cross-border trade topic can be in the future?
Amazing question, very difficult to answer. I think each of the marketplaces is a bit tailored to the market itself, where we have local users that still prefer local buying. As I said, only 5% of the transactions happen cross-border trade on used vehicles. So 95% of the users actually prefer the local market. So the question we had at the time was, how can we manage 1.5 million listings in Mobile with 300,000 listings in Spain? All of a sudden, we as marketplace that we need to cater for that balance of demand and offer, how can we digest all that? And then the question becomes very difficult on, is it just importing the listing, but without showing that the listing is not local and you need to wait 2 weeks, and maybe it's not 2 weeks because it needs paper and it's paperwork and it takes a month or so. So it becomes very, very tricky to cater for that. So I think what we discussed at the time, okay, can we do it B2B? And instead of looking from a B2C perspective where we put our users in contact with the dealers abroad that might not speak the language barrier and so on and so forth, maybe we can cater for B2B. Because B2B, there's an opportunity there. Why? Because we'll be serving our clients and at the same time serving mobility clients. Yeah. And that's the approach that we are more thinking on cross-border trade, helping the dealers that we have as clients locally. And that might be, as it was mentioned, as partnerships, might be an international partnership between dealers, might be as consolidation. And a German dealer might publish in coaches.net. And we need to cater for that as well as the pie of cross-border trade grows.
We're very close away from that in terms of B2C perspective, because we're already investigating for ourselves as from a dealer holding perspective to put some other partners' content on our own website, because we're already showing these cars that are coming in 2 to 4 weeks. You know, we are acquainted already to the picture that the pictures will follow soon and anything like that. So as a perspective from that point, we do want to advertise cars, for instance, from Spain or Germany or whatever, as long as the end user, the client, knows what to expect. It's just the expectation management thing. Yep. But in the end, that's really a solution that could help in the future.
Yeah, and I would like to add, we have some bigger dealers growing. Van Mossel, for example, from Holland, they're really growing big. And we're doing a pilot right now with the Belgium-Dutch market. And we have the luxury tax. They don't have it in Belgium. So they have one Van Mossel website where they have the complete stock, because you don't want to have a customer on Van Mossel that doesn't find the Golf who is on Belgium side, right? So they're creating one marketplace, and they will fit in within 1 week the delivery. And you can deliver at your home, or you can deliver at your local dealership, because they have 200 local dealerships.
That's not the problem. You need to wait anyways for a couple of days.
So Van Mossel is a great keyword. We'll get to that a little bit later, because they just acquired Nordostsee Automobile in Germany, and we will talk about dealer consolidation in a minute. But I would like to continue on where you left off. You said, okay, between Germany and Spain, maybe it's more of a B2B game, and B2C might be challenging, at least from a marketplace perspective. We do have B2C examples, though, and that's a perfect segue. Thank you for that answer, as if it was planned. Rolf, we've done some pilots, and more than just pilots, between Germany and the Netherlands. Can you talk a little bit about the collaboration you have with our of course, mobility team, but also with Marktplaats in the Netherlands?
Yeah, our marketplace, Kastjes is Mobile is Marktplaats.nl. And we have around 250,000 cars online in Holland, so like 1.3 in Germany, right? And I always say we're 1.4, sorry for that. Before COVID number was that, right? Yeah. Since 2008, we are partnering with Mobile, and 10 to 20% of the stock of every dealer, on average, could be also sold abroad, right? So you wouldn't miss a chance if you have a buyer in Denmark, for example, and you don't have a buyer. You can shortage your days on stock, and that's what you want, because that's where the money goes. We are recalculating those cars, and we can see which cars could be cross-border trade. So that's the collaboration. So for the Dutch dealers to easily get the right car on the international platforms. But then Partner Up comes in. So you have the right partners to export it, because it, paperworks, other languages, etc. We will talk about it later with Boswell Trucks also. They have 18 languages in their company. Or you have a specialist like Frank, and maybe you can tell something about it. So if you are a bigger holding, you can make a cross-border trade business into the business with specialists, because it's, you don't do it in one WhatsApp call, right? You need to do more. And advertising is one for the right price, in the right language, in the right way. But then selling
we stepped into that from the dealer holding perspective. We saw that opportunity as well, but that needs some consolidation, and you need to be a little bit bigger to do so, to take that step. And what we did is we hired experts from the market that were usually working with those businesses that arranges all the paperwork and everything, and we took them to ourselves inside to do that exporting, to buy cars internationally from other countries. And that's something we do in-house now. And that's a trend you see as well in the Netherlands now.
So let's talk about this dealer consolidation next. So I'm personally currently on a road trip tour across Germany, visiting 25 of the largest German dealers. And some of them are saying that they get offers to take over a dealer, maybe 1 or 2 rooftops, without a successor in the family, for example, on a weekly or on a monthly basis. Some of them are saying, I'm taking 1 rooftop per year into my portfolio. So slowly but steadily, I'm increasing my portfolio, and I'm basically part of this consolidation. Some others are saying, yeah, I get a lot of offers, but it's all trash. It doesn't help me. Only if something like where I really have a geographical blank spot comes in, that's when I'm ready to actually invest. So I think 5 years ago, we already talked about dealer consolidation. We thought we might already see, a faster pace in 2024. I think, maybe that's something for Benedikt. How do you see the pace accelerating? How do you see the pace we're on right now? If you look at the entire market, what do you see, and how do you assess the coming 5 years?
Makes the picture a little bit bigger when you're looking back 30 years and the transformations which happened there, and when you are now looking like what happened in the last 5 years. It's accelerated massively. And from my perspective, the next 5 to 10 years will be much more disruptive with much more innovations than the last 30 years. So what does it mean for the whole industry? So the speed of disruption and also innovations and also changes will grow massively. So when we are now a little bit deep dive more in this dealer topic, and when we are looking in this whole landscape, which is really under pressure and actually really in a crisis is every time a chance to accelerate the speed. And what we are now seeing is that a lot of dealer groups are accelerating the speed in consolidating others. Yeah. This is, from my perspective, Belgium is also a good example, because Belgium did it 4 years ago. They did this big consolidation already with the different dealer groups. In Germany, we are seeing it now also, because the smaller ones are not profitable, and for them it's a win-win-win situation, because they are acquired. You are staying with your people here. You have no unemployment. The bigger ones can integrate it. They can reach more market coverage, and this is I think this is the main thing, to reach market coverage in Germany, but also internationally. Yeah. And from my perspective, it's the chance really to do it today, because it's a crisis, and in a crisis you can
never
really
waste a good crisis. Huh?
It's a good it's a good crisis. From my perspective, crisis is a really great thing, because you can really change something, and can really also in the industry can really do more things, because you have to do it. Yeah.
And the pricing party is over a little bit, right? But the past few years were very good in terms of high margins per vehicle. So you have a lot of dealers who are sitting on a lot of cash to invest, right? So maybe speaking to a dealer, Frank.
I'm sitting in a chair.
That's
not made out of cash. We're doing fine.
But do you see this as a driver for consolidation, and how are you approaching this nationally and internationally at the moment?
Well, it doesn't necessarily make it easier to buy other parties if they're sitting on a lot of cash, of course. But somehow we're talking rooftops now. That's what we did also in January. We took over a company with 4 rooftops. So 4 new locations added to our company group. And the consolidation is a thing. You need to step into that either way, or you will be out in like 5 to 10 years, or maybe even within 5 years. So that's a thing. Also because you need to invest in a lot of more things to be competitive in the future. Also cross-border, so not even within your country, especially for the Netherlands. In Spain is a much bigger country, so I cannot compare to Spain or Germany, for instance. But for us as a Dutch dealer holding, you need to look cross-border, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to start activities over there, or you need to take over different companies over there, because for that to do so, you need to have another skill, because you have market dynamics, and you have like Germans that are on the clock, and Spanish that wants to go for lunch break, maybe longer than 1 hour, and you know all the sayings. So it has all the different market dynamics, and to step into that as an entrepreneur, that's maybe something else. You need to have a bigger skill, like Emil Fryer from Mosler or whatever. But what we do as a smaller dealer group, we're top 25, 30 in the Netherlands. We do a lot of business cross-border, and we can start a GmbH or a GmbH here in Germany, for instance. So you need to look at the opportunities in Europe or even worldwide, especially in the truck business. You can go outside Europe. So that's something you need to look in.
One follow-up question here, because I'm very interested in this after my discussions with some of the large dealers in Germany. And maybe that's relevant for some in the audience. How do you value, so what's the valuation of a dealer that is up for acquisition, right? I heard many different calculation methods. The worst one was real estate value minus teardown cost.
That's most
it's always zero,
one.
right?
Yeah. Of course, you look at the entrepreneur value. So the what's it really worth in the books, and then you're talking about goodwill. I think that's the topic you want to address, and that is strongly dependent on the brand, the future of the brand, the region where you're locally active. And the number of rooftops you're carrying, or the number of sites and people. So a big company to take over doesn't necessarily means any good, because it can also be a very inefficient company, for instance. So in terms of brands and like Volvo, for instance, because we are carrying Volvo, you're buying zip codes as well, and zip codes are not that expensive, so to say.
Yeah, the funny thing is that dealers think that their name for the last 80 years worth it a lot. But as you mentioned, the make model Volkswagen is less loyal to brands. Yeah. But it's also less, you forget the name 3 years ago.
Yeah, who are you doing business with? With Volvo or with Nieuwenhuijse? That's a good question. And our marketeers cannot even answer that question straight away.
Yeah. I think that's a super interesting one, because on the one hand, everybody knows that a Golf is a Volkswagen product, but an ID.7 is also a Volkswagen, and we all in this room might know that this is true, but for the end consumer, this is getting more difficult. And then you have brands and new models, and they have to establish themselves. So that might be an opportunity for your dealer brand to actually be stronger. You said a little bit about that already, but how are you investing in your own brand positioning and marketing as a dealer?
Yeah, well, we rely still on our name, of course, because we tend to think that it carries some value. But we also don't look away for the fact that, for instance, now we're opening up 2 stores of Link & Co. We start retailing Link & Co. next month in December. And we're still in that discussion. Do you even have to put your name, or is it just Link & Co. Apeldoorn? Or is it Nieuwenhuijse, Link & Co. Apeldoorn? You know, so, but you need to be investing in things that you keep relevant, and don't look away for the fact that clients can choose, and in the future will more choose just the brand, or even the monthly payment. I think that's also a trend where we're looking into.
Florian, let me bring a contrarian view.
Yes, please.
Generate more discussion.
Yeah.
I think consolidation will happen and is inevitable. Almost in all industries, we've seen that. But I think that the capillarity distribution of technology is actually might decelerate the consolidation trend that we've seen in the past. Why? As Ajay mentioned at the beginning and the opening, we as marketplaces are also there to provide tooling. Not only marketplaces, but a lot of tools that in the past would require huge investments to be done will be readily available to all the dealers. So I do believe that there are still a lot of opportunities in the market for small dealers to actually start business and grow. And I would not say fight the consolidation, but survive the consolidation. It's about the companies that are inefficient and do not adapt to the new demands and the user needs, and adapt to new pricing, new technology, that will suffer the bad consequences of consolidation, because they will be bought as inefficient companies. They will get the value of real estate minus teardown, and that's their value. The ones that are efficient, they will be able to sustain business, or if there's a better option and consolidate and merge into a bigger corporation, that might be the way they decide to go.
So Benedikt, maybe that's a question for you. If I'm a medium-sized dealer right now, how should I look at all of this? Is this an opportunity? Is this a threat? What are some things that I need to do now to be a winner in this?
Free tips.
It's always a famous last word.
Frank is listening.
Famous last words. I think there is not the silver bullet, full stop. There is no silver bullet. But I think from my perspective, when you're a small dealer, you need to, when we are coming, the difference between volume and premium. And I think with premium, with high margin, you can be a small dealer, because when you're like driving Ferrari or Porsche, you can make a lot of money. So when you're volume one, I would say also when you're small or medium, think about what you are really delivering, and when you are standalone, what Joao said, I would make a question mark behind it, because volume segment, as it said, volume, it's a scale game. So in the end, you need a scale to really survive. And then we are going also maybe go down the volume stream. Then also the question is, in which region are you located? Yeah. So are you in the region where the demand is really high and you're the only one as a small one, but then you are also in this volume game again, because then you have a proposition where you can really stay and sell cars. So, but when you're in a region where a lot of competition is, the key question is, can you really survive against the bigger ones? Or should you say, okay, just buy me, I can make money out of it, I will stay on a roof of a big group, and then we can do all the things together and also invest in things. So from my perspective, when you're talking about like platforms, I can say, okay, yeah, then low down really your costs, then maybe it's an opportunity to collaborate as a small dealer with you, but when it really is, you have to pay a lot of money and you have thin margins, because the market is changing, as we all knowing, party is over in the used car segment. Then the question is it really for me valuable to cooperate with a platform to scale me? Or if I said I go under a roof with a bigger dealer group and use synergies?
There's always place for a local hero, but it's tough. It's a tough game.
It's a tough game. And also the question is, when we're talking about loyalty to a brand, when I'm a dealer in a region where there's no other dealer, then you're loyal to a dealer, because then you are going to Müller dealership. And Müller, there is my personal salesperson who's like talking to me. But I think this is getting raw when we are in Germany also, when we're talking about this consolidation, also not Austria Automobile and so on. So in general, it's getting more bigger, and therefore also the loyalty, the question is, if in the future, I think today it's like with this generation we have, and it's a generation topic. It is a generation topic. So it's also with everything. So when we're talking about the current generation, okay, they are going to the dealership in the case of, I want to talk to my salesperson, and I want to have this salesperson. And I think in the future, it doesn't matter if you go to Moll, Van Mosse, whatever, you're going to the dealership and saying, okay, I want to have this car, maybe look at this car, I want to have this.
Especially with the online trends.
It's
going much
and
more
the trend to using a car.
Yeah.
So look at the different, in the future we will not stick you can't stick to this variants of cars. So 75 variants of a steering wheel at a Volkswagen Golf. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So why? It's a steering wheel. So it's nice, so have one variation.
Take one.
So take one, take one. So, and I think this is also, this trends will also let in the fact that you have like, you're using a car, the generation is changing, and this is also affecting directly like dealerships in the way of behaving. And therefore I think there will be, it's a good opportunity, if you have the opportunity to really go on a roof of a bigger dealer group, to lift the synergies and raise the bar together.
Mm-hmm. Rolf, do you see a big correlation between the two topics we talked about today, cross-border trade and dealer consolidation? Is one driving the other?
It has to do with each other. And the good thing for you is you have visiting now 25 dealers. In 2 years it will be 10 in Germany. Right? So you have more time for family. That's good. But and Joao would say, the young people who are adapting the marketplaces and the market data and are buying and selling very quickly, like we heard here, 60 days, 90 days, 100 days of stock. It's unbelievable that we are still here. And in Germany, for me, not to be not polite, right? But they're sending Excel sheets to each other, right? You told me yesterday there was a dealer 4 years ago who didn't have an email address.
I didn't mention any names, right?
No, you didn't mention.
50% of German dealers don't have an own website.
Okay, but
but that's a joke.
How
right?
are you, if you are a local hero, if you are a specialist, for everybody is a place, but in this world, with all the regulations from all the governments, European and every country has, with sustainability, we didn't talk about, with the digital privacy things, there's so much going on. If you don't have an email address or you're sending out Excel sheets to each other, what's your stock today? Yeah, I think we all know you're out of business, right? So, is that has something to do with cross-border trade? I don't think so, but
okay. you did want to mention.
No, but I think scale helps the cross-border trade, right? The bigger you are, the more
easier it is.
The easier it is to do cross-border trade. And also opens up opportunities. But again, to your point, to me, it's not about the size itself. It's about the quickness and how fast you adapt to the new realities, to the change that is coming. You can do actually on bigger companies. Actually, more difficult to do that change than on smaller ones. So to me, yes, it will. Consultation is a given. It will happen. That does not mean that smaller, medium dealers will not have the opportunity to stay in the market and actually gain
be willing
market.
to have that scope.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Well, and bigger dealers can get A players in digital retailing on board, and smaller dealers couldn't pay an A player of 23 with 3 universities who knows everything and who's building up. And Frank is, I think, a good example how he gets young A players into his dealership to be in front of it. But you need some scalability to have that, because otherwise you can't pay the bill, right? Of those.
But you have off-the-shelf tools. That's the big difference.
That's
previous to 20 to 25 years ago.
Be a solution.
You have off-the-shelf tools that you can use, and you don't need to hire those, and you scale through that. And once you get the scale, then you start thinking, do I need an expert in-house because that can tailor that tool to my need, and that's when you get the scale that is needed. Obviously, there might be a quicker route.
We can start lay off the A players.
You are searching people, Frank, right?
So, thanks a lot for this lively discussion. I think we owe a big round of applause to Rolf, Joao, Benedikt, and Frank. Thank you very much.